My name is Ryan Takau, and I'm the head women's tennis coach at Trinity University. Trinity is a great school. We have a strong tradition. Currently, we are Division III. We are ranked number 25th in the country. We were Division I, and we have a strong tennis tradition. In fact, John McEnroe lost his only collegiate match at the university. We've had tennis legends such as Cliff Buchholz, Dick Stockton, Brian Larry Gottfried. On the women's side, of course, Ann Smith, Joanne Russell. But a little bit about myself, I was the first Division III tennis player, and so I'm just trying to look to really get us back, on top as one of the premier programs in Division III. I think one of the biggest advantages in Division III compared to Division I is that the students themselves, the student athletes, they don't have to be concerned about keeping their tennis scholarships. Obviously, at our division, we cannot offer those, and so they're either on some sort of financial aid through loans that they have gotten, or through, of course, academic money. So as long as they retain their grades, which they have to do for tennis anyways, they don't have to worry about those situations, whereas in the other divisions with Division I, junior college, NAIA, Division II, programs there, coaches, that they have to be kind of concerned about winning. They're looking to bring in better players so that their programs can excel. Also, if players get injured and they're on some sort of tennis scholarship, unfortunately, it can be a difficult situation where coaches, they have to look to replace those players, and oftentimes, those players that were on scholarship, if they get hurt, they'll sometimes lose those monies that they are using to pay for their schools. So I think that's one of the advantages. And of course, I think at the Division III level, the institutions that we are competing and associated with, we really concentrate on the academic side of things. And I think, kids and parents, they can look across the board, and there's a tremendous amount of great private institutions in our own association that really prepare the kids for a future after tennis. That's a tough one. I would say I'm a little biased, obviously going to Trinity myself. I would say that I would put any of our universities, against any of the other divisions across the board. And I think presidents, administrators, they're looking, there's been more universities that have moving Division III because they just realize the importance of, a strong, academic as well as an athletic playing field. But I would say yes, I'd put up any of our schools against any of the other divisions in the U.S. I think in most situations, yes. I know at Trinity, we'll give a list to our admissions board, and they'll take a look at that. They'll ask, if there's a student that might be a little borderline, and they're kind of being considered against some other borderline applicants, that sometimes they will use tennis. A recruit of ours as being one of the criteria factors that might give them a little edge, and sometimes be the difference maker between the two applicants and helping them, get accepted into the university. For me, the thing that I look mostly at is attitude. I've been coaching now for about 12 to 13 years, and I really want those players that are going to be willing to learn and work with their team. I also look at, tennis players, that they have to realize that although tennis, from a junior standpoint, has been largely based upon competing in individual tournaments and working on their own individual rankings and accomplishments, that when they come to our university, I'm looking at they want to be competing at a team level, having a lot of fun, and then commitment and effort is the main thing, and just trying to get them prepared for life outside of tennis. For me, I'm pretty, I look at all rankings, from 1 stars all the way to the 5 stars. But I'm a firm believer, I'm pretty confident in my coaching abilities that we try to, we'll work with all sorts of players and try to really develop them and help their game once they get to college to really progress, because I think sometimes as coaches, if we're just too close-minded looking at rankings, I think that sometimes limits us, because I've come to the realization that other players have had more privileges to travel to different tournaments, and so they get a little bit more exposure, so those rankings can be a little inflated. And then also, tennis kids start at an early age and they do get burnt out, and you can have some of those late bloomers that are really excited. So when I see that true passion, that's sometimes what I'll look at more, and their trend, I'll track them from maybe their freshman, to their senior year, and seeing if they're starting to really kind of move up a little bit, and I'll use that information. I think the sooner the better. I mean, in our division, we can contact kids, as soon as they're like freshmen, basically. So, I've had players that contact me their sophomore years in high school, occasionally, freshmen, and I'll just kind of, like I said, I'll follow along. But as the players and the families themselves, when they're looking at different universities and programs, I think it's also a good way for them to kind of, learn about the process, learn about the schools, the coaches themselves. They can track the teams, and basically seeing if it's a fit for their child. Because obviously, once they leave the nest, they're growing into being young men and women, and you want the best fit possible. So I think the earlier you can start that process, the better prepared that they're going to be, and they will find the right spot. My final thoughts is, I just remember when I was a player and looking at different universities, to keep an open mind. I think that nowadays there's so many great programs, there's so many great coaches across the board, and where I know that I kind of at first ran into a little bit of a problem was I was pretty close-minded, that always thinking, okay, Division I, that's the top, that's the best, that's the only places that at first I was kind of looking into, and fortunately for me, I had some other coaches that kind of planted, the seeds in my brain that, oh, Division II, junior college, NAIA Division III, they're all wonderful places as well, and to look into those, schools and universities, and fortunately I did too. So that would be the one thing that I'd like to leave, for the players out there, do your homework. I mean, I'm a firm believer that you need to, failing to prepare basically is preparing to fail. So look at those programs that you do see are on the upswing of things, and I think you'll be surprised. And yeah, good luck with everything.